Good morning, Boston! A little over a year ago, I reread the Hunger Games trilogy, rewatched the movies, and then read the prequel, A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, all in order to become a crochet version of Katniss Everdeen herself. So, all that to say, this weekend's a very big deal to me. Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins is officially out, and it follows Haymitch during the 50th Hunger Games, which is when he was a tribute and when he won and became the mentor to then later go on and mentor Katniss and Peeta twice. In anticipation of this book, I have done a little bit of research just to feel like I can go into it without the fear of missing out on the little details. I'm sure that there will be things that I'll miss, but I feel like I'm in the Hunger Games mindset now that I've listened to podcasts and read articles and read about Suzanne Collins' inspiration for the book. And I will say it's going to be very interesting to see President Snow in this new book now that we know so much about him, because we know his origin story and the fascist dictator that he becomes. And now I'm rambling because I'm avoiding it, and it's time to start reading Sunrise on the Reaping. It's time to get into it. Here's the first official opening. Okay, Miss Suzanne Collins is already really serious with this one. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 quotes in the epigraph section. All propaganda is lies, even when one is telling the truth. A truth that's told with bad intent beats all the lies you can invent. I have chills. It is therefore on opinion only that government is founded, and this maxim extends to the most despotic and most military governments, as well as to the most free and most popular. Why am I gonna cry and I haven't even started yet? That the sun will not rise tomorrow is no less intelligible a proposition and implies no more contradiction than the affirmation that it will rise. Okay, Sunrise on the Reaping. Even the little circles on the chapter number are so Hunger Games that it's making me want to cry. Let's start this thing. Though I did that little bit of research going into the book, I didn't read the excerpt that came out early or the synopsis or anything like that, so I'm going in a little bit blind, and from genuinely the first paragraph, you're just transported back into the Hunger Games world. And there's just something so unique about the feeling of reading this book from a series that meant so much to me as a 12-year-old, and to have the original series and the new books not only hold up to what it used to be, but to like continue to grow with me as a reader and be more and more relevant to our world today. I just don't know anything else that feels like that does. What else is as comforting and fulfilling as being seen just as clearly now as I was when I was 12 years old? I didn't know how the book was going to make me love Haymitch's girlfriend, Lenore Dove, because I presume we only get so much time with her before he has to go to the games, and we already know what happens to her after the game. So I was worried that I wouldn't get emotionally attached. I would die for her. You can't count on things happening tomorrow just because they happened in the past. It's faulty logic, and that's part of our trouble. Thinking things are inevitable, not believing change is possible. then Haymitch says, or thinks, because while it's a fine idea, thinking about a world with no reaping, I don't really see it happening. The capital has all the power, and that's that. And just reading that line and how trapped Haymitch feels makes me think, one, about how someday he is going to wake up on his birthday and there will be no reaping because of what Katniss does. And so I'm so sad for Haymitch now and happy that he will get to experience that someday, but also devastated that even when he experiences that, he will be thinking about Lenore Dove and how she told him it was possible and she was right, but she will never get to see that. Oh my god. And then I'm also thinking about how Suzanne Collins is giving us a really interesting perspective on the games, with Haymitch starting out in this position of hating the capital, but also feeling like there's no hope. Good morning. I really wanted to read this book in one go, but I was sobbing. So to be honest, I needed to go to bed. I needed the day to end, and we had gotten to our first death. I'm about 25% of the way into the book, and it's just been gut-wrenching, and it feels like Miss Suzanne Collins is really laying it on thick, because Haymitch literally looks at this little 13-year-old girl, Luella, and is like, she's the best, funniest, smartest person I ever met. She's my sweetheart, like a little sister to me. I wish she could marry my younger brother, and now she's gonna die. And then she dies in this really brutal way in front of everybody. I mean, that's what the Hunger Games is, and we haven't even got to the Hunger Games yet. I think it's just that Suzanne Collins is not holding anything back in terms of clarity. Like, she is just laying it out how it is in this book, just saying things in pretty much black and white. Haymitch literally thinks, I'm entirely the capital's plaything. They will use me for their entertainment and then kill me, and the truth will have no say in it. I don't know, it's like, don't tell, you should show, not tell, but the context and how deep you know the pain and suffering and violence and corruption goes, because presumably you've read the other 4 books before you're reading this one, makes the telling just not even feel like telling, because we have seen it. It's been shown. I don't know if I'm making sense, but it's really painful, and it kind of just feels like we're sitting in the brutality of it all right now, because we know that Haymitch in this book is about to suffer more, and then it's gonna go on and suffer for years and years and years. Oh my god. There have been like enjoyable aspects to the story so far, mostly the lore. The lore that's been dropped is insane. Like, we know Katniss's parents. I was gonna make me cry. We know Katniss's parents now because her dad is best friends with Haymitch. Ooh. Alright, sorry. I'm gonna pull it together. We've already had direct contact with Mr. President Snow, which I was really hoping for in this book because I think he's in like a really interesting position right now as a character. And it's really interesting to see how the games themselves have progressed since Snow's prequel, but like pre-Katniss time. It's definitely really similar to how things are when Katniss goes into the Hunger Games, but it's just not quite as refined. Like, they're still testing these things out, but a lot of the basis for what it is going to be has already started to be put into effect. So it's very interesting. So it is fun, but then everything is just underlined with this violence and grief. Like, you have 1 second of thinking, Oh my god. Mags is Haymitch's mentor? It's Mags! And then immediately it says, it's Mags, a victor from District 4. She looks at me sadly, knowingly, and then opens up her arms and says, I'm so sorry about Luella, Haymitch. For a moment, I teeter between anger and grief, but the dam finally breaks. I step into her embrace, drop my head on her shoulder, and begin to cry. Right now, at this point in the book, I'm feeling like it makes sense, not just for Haymitch's character, but to give readers the perspective of someone that feels really nihilistic and hopeless about society. And maybe that's just me projecting, because I tend to feel like there's no hope of change and like I'm powerless and there's nothing that I can do to fight the man, like he's too strong. But we do know that Haymitch, who feels the same way, goes on to be one of the most pivotal people in the revolution, and they are successful. So I think that there is a chance for this to end with a hopeful feeling, maybe. But right now, as we're just sitting in the worst of it, I'm sad. I'm sad, and this is sad. It's really sad. Boom! 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 Of course we have to hear from Lenore Duff one more time before he goes in there, of course. Like, thank you, but also, fuck you, you know what I mean? Like, thank you, but fuck you. Everyone's gonna die. What's the point? What's the point of anything? Hey, it's been about 0 seconds and everything is just more fucked up because everything in this book just gets more and more fucked up all the time. All the time, every second. It's just more bad. We will be together always, I say with conviction. I don't know how and I don't know where. I don't know anything, but I feel that in my heart. You and me, we will find each other as many times as it takes. And all I can think about is how what he really finds, the her that he finds, is just Katniss. It's just Katniss. Okay, bye! Oh my god. Time for the games. Woo! Let the Hunger Games begin. May the odds be ever in your favor. For some reason I genuinely don't understand anymore. I thought that I was gonna be excited for the Hunger Games portion of the book to begin, and I don't. I feel dread. I feel a pit in my stomach. I feel absolutely ill, and I cannot possibly imagine how I thought it was going to be fun. It's almost like the book propagandas you itself into being like, of course the Hunger Games section is going to be like the exciting section to get to. It's the Hunger Games series. But no, I don't want to read this, and I actually have a feeling that it's not going to be that long of a section because it doesn't start until the midpoint. We're 50% of the way through the book and we are just entering the arena right now, and I just want to cry because Effie is like parallel to Katniss's Cinna, but for Haymitch right now, and it's making me feel ill. Also, baked a fresh loaf of sourdough today. Turned out awesome. I got that going for me at least. But there are some things I want to say before we get into the arena, because we have a little bit of context here about Haymitch's games based on what they told us, mostly in Catching Fire. We know that 1, this is a quarter quell, it's the 50th Hunger Games, and so there are double the number of tributes in the arena. There's gonna be 48 kids. Yay! We also know that the arena is this weird duality of beautiful evil, where everything looks really pretty and pristine and it's floral and gorgeous and there's fluffy animals, but the flowers are poisonous, the animals are carnivorous, and the arena's out to kill them. So there's It's beautiful, it's deadly. We also know that Haymitch is gonna win the Hunger Games and that he wins it by finding the force field that surrounds the arena. And then somebody, another tribute throws like an axe or something at him and it bounces off the force field wall and hits them and they die. Haymitch wins. Not looking forward to that moment. But the last thing we know is that no one really knows what happened during these games because everything got so messed up that all of the footage from the 50th Hunger Games is super edited, which makes this the perfect backdrop for a book about propaganda because everything that's left over from these games is being advertised in a super manipulated way, i.e., please see Miss Luella's body double. Our new information that we've gotten so far in the book is that the mentors, Wyrus and Beatty, have a plan for the revolution, and Haymitch is now a huge part of that. He's a little bit wrapped up in it, and somebody that's kind of been on the outskirts of the story since the beginning, really, but that I haven't mentioned, Mr. Plutarch, who is a character I was very excited to see in this book, and you know that he had to be involved in it because of the connection that he eventually has with Haymitch and like the whole District 13 revolution. But Plutarch is currently this like producer / director for broadcasting content of the Hunger Games, which makes so much sense because later on he's like all about the branding and the marketing of the rebellion in District 13. So his roots, they make sense. And every time he's shown up, because you know who he becomes, there's been this like anticipation of when is he gonna say something? Is he totally capital pilled at the moment, or is he currently trying to fight for freedom and on the right side of things? Like, what's going on? And then as I was just crying about Lenore Dove getting to give Haymitch a little bit of a call, that was because Plutarch finally showed his cards. He's on our side. It felt good to know that little Plutarch is out there trying to make a change, and yet the Hunger Games are about to begin, so what is there really to feel good about? But I don't think it's gonna be that much of the book. I don't think it's gonna be that much of the book. The Hunger Games, don't think it's gonna be that much of the book. I don't. I really don't. I think it's just going to be a tiny little minuscule part of it. I don't think it's going to be a whole thing because I think that'd be really sad, and I think that we're going to have a lot of content after because we know that a lot of traumatic things happen to Haymitch after, and that's going to be really important. Okay, so Haymitch is rising in his little plastic tube into the arena, and the way that it's being described, I could be projecting here, but the way that it's being described makes me think that Miss Suzanne Collins was just as impacted by the aspect ratio change in Catching Fire as all of us were, because that's the exact feeling that the scene is giving. That's the exact feeling that the scene has. I'm reading right now, so just saying. Everyone's dying. Haymitch is sabotaging the arena, and we thought, like, going into this book that the big thing that Haymitch does that's bad is that he uses the force field wall around the arena to his advantage, but like this story is showing that there was so much more to it, and while I'm reading all of this, it does not even feel like you're reading a story. It feels like this is history. It feels like this is actual real life history, that this was all actually covered up and that Haymitch actually experienced this, and he's a real boy out there that suffered so much. She's writing textbooks. This is not a story, this is a textbook. She's insane. She's insane! The games are over. Everyone but Haymitch is dead. And I'm gonna go finish the book tucked in for the night. Good morning again. I went to sleep sobbing. I woke up sobbing. Sobbed on the phone about this book with my mom. Scrolled TikTok for a few hours. So here we go. I finished the book, and I genuinely think that I need like an unspecified amount of time to fully recover from the experience, but I have been left with a few main takeaways. First of all, I don't know yet if this is gonna be like a bold take, but I think that this might be the best Hunger Games book, full stop. It feels like the character depth and the ruthlessness of the story that Suzanne Collins has been trying to tell with all of the Hunger Games books kind of finally peaks in this story. And the way that this book makes the songs from The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes and Lucy Gray's impact even more powerful, and how it adds so much context and depth to the original trilogy and everything that happens in those books. It makes it feel like Sunrise on the Reaping was this missing puzzle piece to just complete it all. Clearly, I am like so biased and this story is kind of in my veins at this point. So there were a few times while I was reading that I was kind of like, wait a second. Are all of these cameos and lore drops a little bit fan servicey? Like, does Effie really need to be the one to send Haymitch off into the games for this story to make sense? But then I stopped and I thought about it. I double checked myself, okay? And I think that all of the connections that Sunrise on the Reaping has to the other 4 Hunger Games books really just emphasizes the 2 main points that this book was making, that I saw and so far. The importance of community and of fighting against implicit submission. There are so few people that actually know what happens in each Hunger Games. It's literally like Snow, the game maker, and the victor, and that's kind of it. So because the system kind of automatically limits the number of people that are in the know about the Hunger Games, it automatically creates a community. And it makes sense that this rebellion would end up going back to the same people over and over that they know are willing to fight against the system. And the sense of community also kind of goes back to one of the biggest themes in all of the books, which is that every single person in a broken system is a victim. Even the capital citizens. Haymitch tells us over and over again that the vapid patriotism of the capital citizens shouldn't be a reason for us to judge them. We shouldn't hate them for it. We should have sympathy for them because it's all that they've ever been taught. That kind of nationalism is literally all that they know. The other thing about having all of this lore and background information about Haymitch's experience is that it puts every other Hunger Games book into so much perspective, especially the way that they showcase Haymitch's games to the public. And the Capitol created this totally false narrative to cover up their own mistakes, tells us that we don't really know what happened in any of the Hunger Games other than the ones that we directly read from in Katniss's perspective and Snow's perspective in his prequel. So who's to say that Haymitch was the first tribute that the rebels tried to work with, or who's to say that he's the last tribute that they tried to work with before they pulled in Katniss? The point is that it's all a lie, even if it's the truth. So it's worth it, I guess, to keep fighting for justice, even if you have to do it over and over and over again, because you never really know what's going on if you're being manipulated. I was really scared that there'd be no feeling of hope at the end of this book just because of how much Haymitch suffers and how much he loses. And I do think that I'm still kind of living in the sorrow of it all and not the hope. But I do think that the overall message is that no matter how far Snow goes or how big he seems, his power is not guaranteed and he is not indestructible, and it is possible to stop the sunrise on the reaping.